morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with NETGEAR. Today's host is Jordan Cooper, and he is their territory account manager for us, and he will be presenting today. If anyone has any questions, please submit them in the question box, and Jordan will answer them at the end of today's presentation. Jordan, thank you so much for being with us today. We greatly appreciate your time. I am finished for now. Please go ahead and take it on over.
Thanks so much, Julie. Thanks everybody for joining this webinar. I appreciate it. She just introduced me. My name is Jordan. I'm the account manager for Microcom. I cover territories of California, Texas, and Hawaii. Just right off the bat, want to let everybody know that I consider myself to be a smart salesman. I'm not an engineer by any chance, but definitely know enough to get me into some trouble. But if you have any questions that I don't know, I'll be more than happy to pass them along to some of my engineers and hopefully answer those questions in the future. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Today we're going to be talking about our Orbi Pro. Orbi is one of our mesh lines that we have. Very quite common name throughout the industry. A lot of people are familiar with our Nighthawks, which is for our home. We also have an Orbi Home. That is exactly what it is for, the home product. And then we have our Orbi Pro. Our Orbi Pro is designed for more of the business class, small office, work from home people. It has a few bells and whistles and added benefits that businesses like to typically see that we'll dive into. So let's go ahead and get into it. Right now, as we all know, there are some challenges with Wi-Fi. Right now, it seems like there's a never-ending fight about poor Wi-Fi performance with the dead zones and slow speed. Also, being able to manage large device-dense environments. I was reading an interesting article the other day that said, at least for the average home, 10 years ago, the average home had about 15 to 20 devices. And now that's up to 35, 40, even up to 50 devices that most homes averagely have. And it's not surprising with the Alexas or Google Homes, the smart cameras, the smart TVs, the laptops, tablets, cell phones, the Rings, the Nest thermostats. Could go on and on and on. Even a Wi-Fi crock pot cooker. So a lot of more and more things are getting onto Wi-Fi network, which is causing congestion. This is what it says right here. And then also another big problem that we face in the industry is the inability to run wires, or the dreaded ability to run the wires if you can. Anybody who has run wires know that it's definitely no walk in the park, and it takes a lot, and it is quite costly to do. Of course, with all this congestion and all these devices, there is an increase in privacy. It just allows more doors for possibly to hack into. But we have some solutions here. NETGEAR has the solution. When it comes time to our Wi-Fi 6, we have business-grade Wi-Fi. If you don't know of Wi-Fi 6, you absolutely should by today. But if you don't, just know that the Wi-Fi 6 is the latest and greatest, I should say. And actually, I think Wi-Fi 6E is being worked on, and we are coming out with Wi-Fi 6E products. So, but anyway, Wi-Fi 6 has been pretty much adopted as the next standard from your standard Wi-Fi 5 or AC. The Orbi Pro line has the ability to be monitored and managed anywhere. It does have the ability to also have the isolation from work and family, and more importantly, when it comes time to work, segmenting between guests and admins and maybe accountants. I can separate all that traffic, all without any wires, and then it also has the latest and greatest security protocols. So let's talk briefly about Wi-Fi 6, just to really know the difference in that Wi-Fi 6 is truly the top-of-the-line technology today. A lot of devices are coming out with, so this presentation is a little bit dated. It says the iPhone 11 to 14 just barely came out, so it tells you how long a little bit Wi-Fi 6 has been out. But more and more devices are coming out with Wi-Fi 6. Pretty much it's becoming, like they said, the standard. So any new device that you buy should have a Wi-Fi 6 card in it. If it doesn't, then they're kind of way behind. When I was actually reading, if you want to see something interesting, Wi-Fi 6 is 802.11ax, which is the evolution after, it started with 802.11b, A, G, and AC, which was 5, and now AX. Apple just launched their Apple Watch, the 8, and if you go and look at the Wi-Fi card and the Wi-Fi, it is capable of only doing A, B, G, and N, not AC and not AX, which is interesting that Apple is that far behind. But again, it is a small watch, so it probably doesn't really take very much doesn't need any fast chip in it for all the Wi-Fi. But Wi-Fi 6, at the end of the day, just know it's fast, it's better, it's more secure, it supports more devices. It's like going from a 2-lane highway to a 10-lane highway and increasing that highway speed from 45 miles an hour to 85 miles an hour. So all in all, Wi-Fi 6 is just overall better. We kind of just talked about this. When I run through these slides, just little FY too, I don't like to read and do a death by PowerPoint. Just like to talk about the brief kind of points, but kind of what we covered here: better speed, better coverage, and better device density. So not just on Wi-Fi 6, with the Orbi Pro Wi-Fi 6, we do things a little bit differently than your standard Wi-Fi 6. Other companies out there, when they say they're Wi-Fi 6, they may cut corners, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But as you can see here, we have the latest security. So the security for the standard for the IEEE is to have this. We took it a step further. WPA3, we also made it with 4 different SSIDs and VLANs per SSID, and that's per SSID. So you can have, depending on which one, you can have even 8 to 12 SSIDs are in VLANs. Client isolation, again, a big one. Client isolation protects devices on an open network, like your guests or also your accounting. Right, IEEE, there's really no requirement for a WAN port speed, but ours, we have a WAN port, which is 2.5 gig. Right, what good does Wi-Fi 6 do if you don't have the infrastructure to support it? So definitely having a 2.5 gig is definitely a benefit. Wireless backhaul on some of our products on our Wi-Fi 6, again, depending on which ones, but there are dedicated bands. Got a 4x4 band on the 5 gigahertz as a dedicated backhaul. And the last kind of thing here is the Wi-Fi 6 on both 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz band. Now that's a big difference with NETGEAR. The other last month, I just actually switched over my internet provider. I switched to AT&T Fiber, which is way better than what I was using before, than a cable provider, and cheaper. And in any case, they wanted to provide me with their own router, and I have the Orbi Pro at my house. And I was like, nope, I want to use my router. And they said, well, this is a Wi-Fi 6 router. It's the latest and greatest. It's the fastest. So, of course, their router is a modem combined, so I kind of have to have the device, but I went in and disabled the router feature. But as I was looking into it, I noticed the 2.4 was the exact same, was Wi-Fi A, B, and N. They didn't even have AC on the 2.4. But on the 5, they did have the 6. So that's how they could kind of get away with saying, well, they're Wi-Fi 6 enabled, because technically, yes, it is true. They are Wi-Fi 6 on the 5 gigahertz band, but not on the 2.4. And that's how a lot of companies will cut corners. They say, well, it's a smaller band. It doesn't necessarily need that faster speed. But while that might be the case, how many devices still use a 2.4? I know, like my Ring and my Nest and my watches and everything looks for the 2.4 gigahertz network. There are a lot of devices, especially with those smaller IoT devices, that can only be on the 2.4. So that means the 2.4 can and will get congested. And if you don't have a Wi-Fi 6 on the 2.4, you're going to suffer even more congestion. It's a lot easier to overwhelm that band rather than having it on the Wi-Fi 6 where it opens up and has multiple lanes. So that's a key difference. And I would encourage everybody on this call to go and take a look at any of their Wi-Fi 6 routers or access points that they have, and really take a look and see if they truly have a Wi-Fi 6 on both the 2.4 and the 5, and you might be surprised. So let's talk about the Orbi Pro. So there are a couple different versions of the Orbi Pro, but for this one, I didn't want to dive into all different three. We'll talk about the differences towards the end. But no, the Orbi Pro has, we had the two versions of it. You know, we had the AC version, and now we have the Wi-Fi 6 version. Wi-Fi 6 is faster than the Gen 1 or the Wi-Fi 5, allows 4 times more devices, obviously the larger coverage area. Wi-Fi 6, each individual satellite or router will do, we estimate about 3,000 square feet of coverage. And the other thing to note about that too is that 3,000 square feet of coverage is based upon real numbers, is based upon putting it in a standard, your typical office environment. You know, this isn't like a gas where, you know, says it gets 40 miles to the gallon, but come to find out that's what's a downhill, downwind, in neutral. This is in a practical environment. The AC or the Wi-Fi 5 did about 2,500 square feet. So still a bit more coverage than you typically would before. And then they do come with 1 year of Insight remote cloud management, which is included. We'll talk about Insight here just briefly in a minute. But Orbi Pro is, you know, some people might say, well, I have an existing Orbi Pro. Maybe the AC isn't compatible. No, it is not. Wi-Fi 6 needs to work with Wi-Fi 6. That's just to keep it all on the same. Plus, you wouldn't want to do that anyway. Why would you want to, you know, at that point, you're trying to throw in a little 4-cylinder engine into a Camaro. It's just something you would just want to do. But the ideal customer, that's the next question that comes is well, where is this best fitting? What environment does this best fit in? And there's a lot of cases for it. Ultimately, any really small business that I think of, you know, and a lot of like, I know like even dentist office, lawyer or law offices, and kind of just small offices that need some great performance, great speed, easy hookup is great. High demand homeowners, such as that's exactly where I fit, right? I have a lot of devices on my network. I like to keep a good eye on everything that I'm doing on my network, what's connected, how much is being utilized, to making sure that I'm getting the best ability out of my Wi-Fi. Retail outlets, restaurants, services, education centers. These are just a few that it goes really well in. Places where it might not do so well in is any environment that needs, you know, if you have a 30-story building, you know, or you have somewhere that's going to be needing 200-300 plus devices connected to it. You know, we have another solution for something like that to fit more of those needs, but the Orbi Pro would not necessarily fit those needs. One of the other things to it to it as well is the Orbi Pro is limited on how many satellites it can have. So you have one router, which is going to be your base that broadcasts its own Wi-Fi, and then you can have these additional satellites. And you can have up to 6 additional satellites. Now, it's not a hard line. It's not if you try to put in 7, will it work? It possibly, and it probably will work, but that's when you're going to see, I feel bad for anybody who's going to be, device is going to connect to that 7th satellite is going to experience some real performance issues, and it's just not going to be really great. So 6 is kind of that the maximum that you really want to push. So in any environment, again, if you want to do a 3,000 square feet times up by 7, that's a 21,000 square foot building. Pretty good sized building, but again, it's not no high-rise building that this would probably go into. On the Orbi Pro advantages, we have, again, the fastest speeds, largest coverage area, and the device capacity and security. So when you think of the Orbi Pro, what makes that better? Fast, large coverage, a lot of device connected to it, and the security realm of it. And let's see. So this is where it can get really technical. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on the technical aspects of it. These next few slides. Just know the top of the line Orbi that we have is our SXK80. has a total of 6 gigabytes of throughput with 12 streams. It is a tri-band, meaning it has a 2.4, a 5, and another 5, a 5 high and a 5 low gigahertz network. It has a 2.4 gigabit wireless backhaul, which that's a pretty impressive thing in my mind. Orbi is meant to be wireless. It's not meant to be hardwired in. And because you can wirelessly do it, you're talking 2.4 gigabit of wireless backhaul, which means, most access points, as we all know, are still doing 1 gig. And so you have 1 gig and maybe Cat5e or Cat6 cabling, you're going to be at 1 gig speed. We've reached this time where a faster throughput from the satellite to the router will be faster than it would be if you did a 1 gig wired in, which is just amazing that we can be there. But if you wanted to wire it, you absolutely could as well, because it does have that 2.5 gig wired Ethernet port. So that's also the nice part, but it's definitely not required. So it can be a wired and a wireless mesh system. More on the little tech specs here. You have four SSIDs. Whatever the SSIDs you want to use for, if that's a work, a family, guest, and everything else. Me personally, for mine, I use one for my work. I use one for my smaller end devices that, that's like my Ring, my Nest, my Google Homes, all those IoT devices. I do have a guest, and then I have just my general one that I will use for pretty much everything else. And so exactly what I use it for. And I know a lot of other businesses will use theirs for their internal employees. They'll use it for a guest network for their guests, obviously, IoTs for their security cameras, and then they'll also have one for maybe like their credit card machines or anything that has to do with finances or money, just to make sure that's another SSID that's separated. So again, here's another one that's client isolation. This is a great thing. In years past, when you were connected to the Wi-Fi, if you had a hacker could go in and see everything that was connected on all the SSIDs. Not anymore. If for example, if a guest connects to the guest network, you can only see whatever's connected to the guest. He's not going to be able to see anything else. He's not going to be able to see any of those maybe finances or credit card transactions or things like that. So let's talk about Insight briefly here. If you haven't heard of Insight, definitely should check that out. I've done a few videos with Microcom that you can go check out on YouTube, but it's all over the place. Basically, it is a remote cloud management software. We're all similar to those. I think we're all familiar with the bigwig names of Meraki and Ubiquiti's Unify, and there's quite a few others out there. But NETGEAR has our own, and this is what is one of the bigger differences between the Orbi Home and the Orbi Pro is this feature here. The Orbi Home does not have the ability to be managed via Insight. It can only be managed via just your standard Orbi app. But the Orbi Pro does have the Insight capability. So Insight, there's a lot of information here, but ultimately I'm not going to dive too much into it. If you're an MSP or if you're somebody who wants to manage, or maybe you're a business owner and you have multiple of your locations and you want to manage multiple locations, definitely Orbi Pro is the way to go. You can set up multiple locations all throughout Insight with a single login. That's a big difference between the Orbi Home. If you're an Orbi Home, I can only do my location. If I open up another location, I have to create a new account under a new email. It can kind of be of a headache to do to keep track of. But with the Insight, have one login for all different locations. You can create even different logins if you would so choose. If you want to have maybe you have access, but you also maybe you have an engineer on hand who can help out and monitors that kind of stuff too. You can create them an access and give them access to either all locations or specific locations. The multi-tenancy feature on the Orbi Pro is great. And so anyway, that's where this all kind of comes in. You can see all the devices that are connected to it and all the great and awesome features. So that's about as much as I want to talk about with the Insight. If this is the first time you've heard about it, definitely go and check it out. It is remarkable. It's awesome. It has all the things that you want, none that you don't want, and is a really industry leading, different than everybody else who's doing cloud management. Okay, so kind of to hit the nail in the coffin here as we kind of get towards the end. Really, the Orbi Pro is, if you're a small business, this is definitely the way to go. The setup is super easy. I think I might have a picture of the back on the next slide real quick. Let's see. Yep, right here. So here is what the back looks like, where you can see the 2 gigabit ports, and you have two 1 gig lag ports that you can link aggregate together to get to another 2 gig run. There is this little button right here. This is a sync button. So, when it comes time to setting up a wireless mesh, some people are concerned with, how difficult might that be? Not difficult at all. When you go and set up your router, it'll say, hey, do you want to set up any satellites? And if you do, it'll say, okay, go put those satellites where you want, plug them in and power them. And then it will have you push the sync button on the router. And then you go to the satellite and you push the sync. And then it takes maybe a minute. And then they just end up syncing and they say, okay, great. And just like that, it's you got a wireless backhaul set up and all ready to go. So super awesome. Now we have a few different models that we wanted to talk about. There are 3 different models as of right now. We have the SXK80, SXK50, and the SXK30. Let's go over this nomenclature. The SXK, the K is going to stand for a kit, meaning it's going to come with 2. It's going to come with 1 router and 1 satellite. So if you go online, you might see like an SXR80. That means that's just the router. You also might see SXS80. That's just the satellite. You might also see SXK80B3 or B03. That's a bundle pack of 3. So instead of having 2, it'll come with 2 satellites and 1 router for a total of 3. Kind of makes sense when you think about it. But there are 3 of these. It's kind of your small, medium, large type of deployments and large scale of how fast you want it. Here's the technical specs. Again, I'm not going to dive into this, but just a little high overview. Know that the SXK80 will have the 6,000 gigabits of throughput. Again, 2.4 on the 5 high, 2.4 on the 5 low, and 1.2 gigs on the 2.4. Gosh, it's just blazing fast to even think on the 2.4 you're over a gig speed, which is just awesome. And then, this not quite as fast, but still pretty fast, especially on the 2.4 network. You're at 600, so it cuts that bit in half. But it does have still the tri-band, still some great feature sets, and then this one is a dual band little router here with the SXK30. So anyway, ultimately, why NETGEAR? Here's the last kind of side, and we'll wrap this up. Is faster, right? We've got the ports to do it to make it faster. We've got the security to make it more secure than anything else with client isolation. We got that remote management feature that it can be managed via remote. Again, that cloud management is 100% optional. It is not required if you don't want it, but if you do, it's there. We got a great warranty, and NETGEAR. I bet some people on this call have a NETGEAR router, and I bet I'd put money on that. Very little issues that you've had with that router, and NETGEAR. We know Wi-Fi. If there's anything we know, it's going to be Wi-Fi and routers, and we're very well apt to it. So anyway, that is about all I have. I'm going to turn back the time over to you, Julie, for any kind of questions.
Thank you very much, Jordan, for that wonderful presentation. And it definitely looks like we've got some questions for you. Let's get started with the first one. Can you tell us about the warranties for the Orbi Pro devices?
Absolutely. So they come with a 5-year hardware warranty. They come also, if you buy it through Microcom, they come with a 90 days of tech support. That's free. If you want to extend the tech support, you want to get what's called Pro Support. That allows you access to like a level 2 support where you can chat with somebody and get help with it. But for hardware, 5-year next day business replacement warranty on both the satellites and routers. All right. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next question here for you. Are older models capable of Wi-Fi 6 via software upgrades, or only new models are Wi-Fi 6 friendly?
Yeah, so Wi-Fi 6 is backwards compatible. If you have a Wi-Fi 5 device, like a cell phone or a laptop, the Wi-Fi 5 devices will work just fine on the Wi-Fi 6. But if you have a Wi-Fi 6 or a Wi-Fi 5, let's say, router or a satellite, can you upgrade that to a Wi-Fi 6? And the answer to that question is no, you cannot. You would need new hardware they come with. They need a better chip, a bigger, stronger, faster chip. There's some internal components that are substantially different that can't be solved via a software.
Got it. Thank you, Jordan. Next question here. Will the NETGEAR Insight app be able to configure the data speeds, QoS, or bandwidth speed for each user?
That's a great question. For each individual user, I don't believe we get that granular when it comes time insight. You can do QoS for on separate V. If you have your own VLAN, you can have all those devices on that specific VLAN be tied to a specific QoS. But to go to the individual devices and say, this device is going to be throttled to this speed, we don't get that granular.
Thank you, Jordan. Next question here for you. How many AX6000 will be able to talk to each other for mesh setup?
Yep, so I touched there, so maybe they asked that question before I touched it, but if they misheard or if they didn't catch it, you can have, on the AX6000, you can have 6 satellites plus the 1 router for the total mesh setup. So I guess the total devices that you would have is 7 total devices, 1 router, 6 satellites, and that would be for about 21,000 square feet of total coverage if all of them, including the router, was doing their own Wi-Fi signaling.
Thank you for clarifying that, Jordan. Next question here. Let's see. Orbi Pro can support 4 SSIDSs. So if you use several of them, is it a 4 SSID each?
Yep. So it's going to be 4 SSIDs per band. So 2.4 has 4 SSIDs. 4 SSIDs on the 5, and then if you go and you're setting up, VLANs, then you can also set up 4 SSIDs on each individual VLAN. So I hope that answered that question.
Yes, great, thank you. Next one here. Does the Orbi Pro support PoE?
That's a great, fantastic question. The satellites do not support PoE at this time. The previous version, the Wi-Fi 5 version, did have a satellite that did have a PoE capability. Didn't really move too much. The people who wanted the Orbi and who were liking the Orbi didn't really care to mount it on a ceiling. Now this does come with a little mounting kit that is like a base, a little stand. You mount the stand and then you set the Orbi satellite or router on top of the stand, so it can kind of go on a wall if you don't want to put it on a shelf or anything like that. But yes, at this time, these are not powered via PoE.
Thank you so much. And here's some more about mounting and setup. The question is, are all the Orbi Pro devices made to be placed on a tabletop? Are there wall mounts or a ceiling mount setup?
Perfect. Yep. So it looks like I just answered 2 in 1. Yep, it does come with the wall mounts, but no ceiling. You put it on a shelf or on a stand or something, or use the wall mounts that are included.
Great, thank you. Next question here. Will customers need to upgrade their wireless clients to use Wi-Fi 6?
A great question. They should not know. All devices, like I said, the Wi-Fi 6 will work with Wi-Fi 5 devices. So, laptops, tablets, cell phones, anything that doesn't have a Wi-Fi 6 card on it will still run on Wi-Fi 6. Will you get Wi-Fi 6 speeds? Not necessarily. It's possible. Depends on what's causing the slowdown on, your previous one. For example, if your Wi-Fi 5 devices, if you have so many Wi-Fi 5 devices that your Wi-Fi 5 router is just kind of congested, while having a Wi-Fi 6 router, even though all your Wi-Fi 5 devices don't have a Wi-Fi 6 card, will have that lane freeway. So it allows more traffic to be on there and allows more breathing room on that traffic. So you could experience still some faster speeds. But I guess it's a long answer to answer. Yes, Wi-Fi 5 devices will still work just fine on a Wi-Fi 6 mesh or network.
Thank you, Jordan. Couple more questions. This one is Wi-Fi 6 supported internationally?
To my knowledge, yes. Some stages are a little bit before others. I know like Canada just barely started getting Wi-Fi 6 introduction there. But so I would imagine that, and I think the Wi-Fi 6 stuff is already out in Europe. But I mainly since I handle California, Texas, and Hawaii, I don't really pay attention too much of what's happening overseas. But just from what I've seen and heard, I have a coworker who covers Canada, and she's really excited that Wi-Fi 6 is just starting to be introduced into Canada pretty much in the recent times. So I would say yes to a certain degree.
Great, thank you so much. Next question here. Do I have to use only NETGEAR, or can I mesh NETGEAR with other partners?
So a great question. If you're going to do the Orbi, Orbi works best, obviously, with Orbi. Even to take it a step further, we have standalone access points. We just have a mesh access points that you could throw in. However, they are not, even though they are NETGEAR, they are not Orbi. So those two are just two different systems. The satellites look for the router, and that's why we call them satellites and not access points. So the Orbi, since it is a system, it needs to have Orbi satellites, and not even NETGEAR access points would work. So if you do have something like that, if you do decide, hey, maybe I do need a lot of coverage. We experience this quite often where somebody's like, I like the performance of the Orbi and all the capability of the Orbi, but I need bigger coverage than just what the Orbi can do. Well, in that case, what we say is if you buy just the router, you go in and you disable the Wi-Fi broadcasting. So it's just basically just a base router. Then you go and you throw in maybe whatever the access points that you want. You would throw in one where the router is because you want something to broadcast from the router. And then it will be on its own. You'll have your own mesh system that way. If you were just to try to throw in an access point or something, or an extender into an existing Orbi network, you're going to get a different network that won't work well with it, won't really mesh with your Orbi. So can it be done? Yeah, it's not recommended. You're not going to have it all on. It's not designed to really work well like you would hope it would, but it can. It's not recommended.
Understood. Thank you, Jordan, so much for answering all of those questions today. And thank you to everyone for attending. If you have any further questions, of course, please feel free to contact your sales rep, or you can email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view any of the products mentioned or shown today, please visit us at www.microcom.us. And remember, this presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so you can view this webinar again. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time and your interest. Jordan, my friend, thank you so much. Until next time, we will do the next webinar with NETGEAR.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.